Hello. This is for my captivating diary, and we are on week 2, and we talked about, created Eve and fallen Eve, and how God had created woman not as an afterthought or, not as just something that is supposed to serve the men, but that it's like the process of creation is like a crescendo, and like we're the final work. We're what they call the piece de resistance. And first of all, I think that's awesome. But I definitely think it helps to kind of look at creation that way, because even when God created Adam and Adam had an unhindered relationship with God, and there's no sin in the world at all, God still said it is not good. He is alone. And it's interesting for God to say that, because we know with God we're never alone. So there's some spiritual depth to creation that I guess they don't always look at, and kind of gave me a new look at our role as women, our place in this world. It's a beautiful place. So, and it's also good to know that, like I said, women are not afterthoughts, and I am not an afterthought. And I think that that's something that I've struggled with is, do I actually play an irreplaceable role? And if I was gone, I know when I was younger and toying with suicide a ton of times, and I would lie on pills and count them and see if, and kind of be on this game of death of whether or not I'd take them tonight. And I know a lot of times the question always ringing in my ears would, would anyone miss me? Would anyone really care? They'd want me to be gone. I'm a burden to everybody. I have no worth. I have nothing to offer. And if I was gone, I would just be a less mouth to feed, or one less person to pay attention to and trying to give to. And so I thought I was an afterthought, and it's really great to again be reaffirmed that I'm not. So we've talked a lot about controlling and desolation, and how when Adam fell, men kind of fell into two categories. You have the passive men, you have the violent men, the aggressive men, and then you sometimes have a weird combination of both. And I think, both of them to me are really not cool, and not, I'd never want to be in a relationship with someone who is violent or aggressive or abusive, and then yet at the same time I really don't think I'd want to be in a relationship with someone who's passive and just kind of lets things happen and never stands up to be the man of God that God has created them to be. That's hard for me, because I know when I was in high school, my first 2 years of high school, I dated a guy who I knew since middle school, since 6th grade, and we were really good friends, and if we would have stayed friends, it would have been so great. But we didn't, and he was super passive, and I can be really control freak. So my friends always teased me and said that I had the pants of the relationship, and I did. I really did. So now that I'm out of that and I'm not dating right now, and hope, I pray one day that if it's God's business for me, if that's His plan for me, that that I would have a husband and I would have a family. Don't want to have someone who's passive, and that's so tricky for me, because it's really easy to be passive, and I understand that, but I can't. No. But definitely not abusive either. So there goes half the men. No. So but when women, because of Eve and because of our own messed up lives, and because we're so sinful, we fall into a couple categories too. We fall into a desolation, needy place. And it seems like a lot of that can come from envy and looking at other people and thinking they have better than what you have. And then we also fall into the other side, which is controlling and dominating. So we become these needy, emotional women who cling to people. And we become these dominant, controlling women who can get things done if it's the way they want it and if really they're doing it. And then we got a lot of people who have both. And I'm one of those people. What I do is I hide, and if I feel that something I'm feeling or want to say or opinion or a thought that isn't, if I think it's not going to go over well, then I tend to start trying to control a situation without actually expressing my heart. So this happens to me, and I see this fleshed out a lot with my friends. Of trying to kind of control whatever situation we're in, so I don't have to actually say what I want to say. And I think that, if I have an opinion, I don't want to have that opinion, and I don't know. So that's big for me, and a lot of that has to do with I tend to believe that I have nothing to offer, and so in any situation I'm in, I look for what other people need, and I try to be that. So at the end of the day, it's like, who am I? Like, what core do I have? So that's a hard place to be in. It's definitely a godless place, because I'm no longer, my eyes aren't on him, they're on them and me. And I know that I have a kind of a cycle where it starts out where I feel pain, and then it escalates to, okay, so I'm going to try and control the situation so I don't have to feel the pain anymore. But then that doesn't really work, and then it goes to kind of a loneliness of this is where you kind of get in that godless place of you feel so alone, and you feel that because you've offered what everybody needed, but you never really offered your heart, that people aren't going to want it. And so out of fear and loneliness, then I go to indulge. And I was kind of listing some things that I have indulged before Christ, and I've indulged after Christ and in Christ. And I know before Christ in my life, before he stole my heart, I definitely indulged a lot in cutting, suicidal thinking, in eating, in fantasies, kind of instead of talking to people and being honest in my head, I would create scenarios of how things could go this way and that way. Reading, internet, movies, porn, masturbation. Those were the things that I definitely indulged in before Christ in my life. Now, with Christ in my life, even though he's stolen my heart, I still indulge in eating, in rehearsing, in like my fantasy land of creating different scenarios that, if I'm feeling hurt by someone, if my friends hurt me or my family's hurt me, instead of talking to them about it, in my head I create the scenario of how it could go, and I never actually talk to them about it, and kind of feeding my anger or my pain or my injustice. And so that sucks. And then I also still indulge in porn and masturbation, and in the internet, Tumblr, hi. That's not good. So you're really good at indulging when I have to get my homework done. But so those are kind of the things that I've kind of looked at and seen the damage of it. And it's interesting because we as women, what we tend to do is we build the loneliness that we feel. So we feel unsafe in this world, and so it's up to us. And the big lie is God's holding out on us, so we have to do it ourselves. And the doubts that God is actually going to come through for us. And I think that translates into also the doubts that men are going to come through to us. And most men can't, or can't all the time, but definitely that God's not going to come through for us. So we build these walls to keep us safe. And we've all heard of this, but walls of, kind of shame, and walls of a false sense of responsibility that I have to do everything. And no amount of approval from anyone or acceptance from anyone can tear down the walls. And at least that's what I believe. So, in all of this, it's hard to kind of look at it, But the biggest promise in the last 15 seconds is that God is coming, and he's come, and he doesn't want us to stay here. And this is not the end of the story. God is coming to save us, to rescue us. He's coming. I'm going to go over 10 minutes because I can. He's coming, and he's come, and he's like, you know, this is who you are. Or at least this is what you do. It's not who you are. This is not what I've created you to be, and not what I'm calling you to be. And eventually I'm gonna get you ready, and I'm preparing you, and I'm equipping you, and I'm enabling you to come to the point to say, you know what? So long, self. You know what? I don't have to be this person. Does that mean that we're gonna be fixed and we're gonna have the best relationship with Jesus and it's gonna be great? No. That will never happen. And so we can never stop saying that we're sinful human beings, because we really are. But even more so, we can't stop saying that we're sick, perverted, deprived, proud, arrogant, greedy, selfish, lustful, wicked, depraved, so fallen. So we can never stop saying those things. I don't really like the term sinful human beings. It sounds really general, and then we can kind of feel good about ourselves because, you know, we're all sinful, and it's kind of but when you start naming your sins, you know, proud, selfish, controlling, lustful, angry, bitter, resentful. Oh my gosh, this is getting a little tricky. But you know, we're still gonna be those, and still gonna act out of our feelings in not very good ways. But kind of cool to see that God is coming to save us and rescue us, and it's all building, just like creation built to a final crescendo. Sanctification is building to a final resurrection in the end, and a final of what in 1 John, when John says, when we see him, we will be like him. When we see Jesus face to face, we will become like him. How beautiful of a promise that is, and the hope that no matter where we are in this life now, it's not ever going to end this way. And it's just, it's building, and it's great. I love building. I love crescendos. So obviously I'm a lot better than I was last week, but and I just pray that all of us this week, we will get a glimpse of how beautiful women in creation is, and how what we see isn't what it was meant to be, and what it will be, and that's okay. So God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm excited to see what happens next. I hope we can talk more about the actual lesson next week. We'll see. We're girls, we get on tangents. God bless you so much. Have a great week.